Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for, well, a bit of a mix of your wonderful therapy session, and of course, a Chelsea preview. Unfortunately, nowadays, we kind of have to do both. Maybe we'll get to a point where we win a few games on the bounce and we will calm it down with the therapy sessions and actually focus on football. But yeah, for the time being, still a bit of therapy session going on because Poch still thinks Chilwell at left wing is a great idea. So, you know, do you know what I mean? That's kind of my reaction. I don't even have words. It's just literally, it's mental. Apparently, Chelsea might be or are trying to attain a minority stake in Sporting Lisbon, which is kind of big. So we'll talk about that, of course. Chelsea on their website have released an interview with the two directors, sport directors, whatever directors they are in the end, Paul Winstanley and Laurenz Stewart. So we'll talk about that because it's kind of interesting. We're kind of going to read two people telling us how great of a job they're doing. It's kind of a bit weird. But, you know, we'll talk about that when we get to it. And, of course, a bit of injury news because Chelsea still have 9 injured players. Romeo Lavia is injured, and it's been a week about that since he's got injured, and still no one has any idea how long he's going to be out for. So now this might be absolutely justified, and doctors might have all the reasons why they don't know yet. But have you ever heard of that before? Of someone getting injured and a week later you still don't even have a rough idea how long they're going to be out for? A bit strange. But yeah, we're going to, of course, talk about Bournemouth. Will we get our first away win of the season? I don't know. We'll talk about our confidence levels as we get through it. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by the wonderful Ollie. Ollie, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very much as always, mate. International break is finally coming to an end. Usually I would be like, oh, do we have to play Sunday? But because, well, at least our best player is coming all the way from South America. I'm glad that good old Enzo gets an extra day, and obviously the same goes for Caicedo. So I'm happy in that sense. But how are you feeling after international break going into this game? Is it like, finally we're back, glad we're back? Or is it like, yay, we're back, but shit, we might lose again?
Yeah, it's definitely the second one, isn't it? It's the international break's always a funny one because during you can't wait for it to be over. Like, you know, I don't know anyone who really enjoys the international break. You kind of just tolerate it. And then when it gets close to playing a game again, if you're not in the best form like we're not, then you're suddenly like, another week wouldn't hurt. But yeah, I think trepidation, cautious optimism, but yeah, a bit worried about Sunday. I can't lie. At least hopefully it seems like we'll have Enzo and Caicedo.
Yeah, at least that is something. Although, when we look at the goal that lost us the game against Forest, I'm not sure how beneficial Caicedo is at the moment. But, you know, that is a different topic. But yeah, it's just, I'm in the same boat as you, really. Like, throughout the whole international break, we have something like, I finally want Chelsea to be back. But I want Chelsea to be back to have that little bit of hope that it can get better. Mm-hmm. But realistically, I'm not that sure it will get that much better. I'm not that confident we're going to win tomorrow. I'll be perfectly honest. I know even under Lampard we beat Bournemouth. So you'd think, well, easy win. But the fact that our manager keeps saying that the one thing all of us agree is the main issue is a good idea. The fact that he thinks we played well against Forest. All of these things are kind of worrying me. The fact that apparently our directors and owners want to build a team to get 100 points. And I'm like, 100 points for who? The opponent? Because it's certainly not happening for us. Like, what? What do you mean 100 points? We had
it's ambitious, though.
I like that. We didn't even get to half of that.
It's ambitious, but there is a point between ambition. There is a difference between ambition and delusion, and I think they're very, very close.
Yeah, exactly. They are very much on that cusp. I'm telling you, my God, it's crazy. Not sure why Orthodox Blues decided to go in on James, particularly today. He didn't just get injured; he got injured a month ago, mate. But sure. Well, of course, Reece James.
He's been upset for that long. Like,
yeah. Exactly. My days. I mean, hey, maybe it's a good thing. You never know. Poch might play Reece James at right wing. We might have right wing and left wing.
Then again, do you know what? I can see why people would be saying that, would be bringing up James now, because, of course, as he's captain, when he doesn't play, Chilwell's captain, so he kind of has to play. And that's also what could be one of the reasons why he's kind of being shoehorned into the team at the moment. So I could see it.
It is true. It is true. At the same time, I'm like, remember when like Cahill was captain and Aspie was back up? Didn't always play either of them. Do you know what I mean? True. Or like, you know, last season, sometimes Thiago didn't play, even though he was officially vice captain. Yeah.
That's true. I suppose.
And at the same time, I get your point, though.
In like I'm just thinking, it's like, you know, new manager might do things differently with like sort of the hierarchy, and you know, I imagine he's got to curry favor with the players a little bit, you know, in order to like keep them happy and stuff. So ideally, your captain plays. If your captain can't play, ideally your vice captain plays, and of course Silva will play. So
No, exactly that. And to be honest, nowadays it's even Enzo as the third captain anyway. In the first few games, Chile gave Thiago the armband, but then Thiago always moved it on to Enzo. And in the last game, Chile gave it directly to Enzo when he came off. But yeah, it's a weird one, that whole Chile vice captain situation, because I'm like, I don't think Poch would have made him vice captain if he didn't want to play him regularly anyway. So as much as I see your point in terms of he might be playing because he's vice captain, because it's so soon since he's been made vice captain, I don't think he would have been made vice captain if he wouldn't be playing all the time anyway.
And that's what I'm getting at. Like, I don't think he could undermine that choice, to make him vice captain by not playing him. And also, what I'm really saying is that we've probably seen Chilwell more because of that. Not that like we wouldn't have seen him without it, but I think maybe we would have seen Maatsen a little bit more, maybe Mudryk a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Mudryk is a whole separate topic. Obviously, we spoke about him to a certain extent in the stream on Wednesday. It's kind of, it's a problem. I don't want to get into it too much, but I guess as we're starting the stream, I'm going to quickly get your thoughts on it as well, Ollie. I don't know where I stand on it. Charlie, I'm not sure if people would have seen it online potentially. Charlie got a chance to go to Cobham to training, to watch training today, and get some pictures and signatures of the players because his brother won some sort of competition to go to Cobham. Which was sick. And I asked him, like, what stood out to him, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, Mudryk looks sharp, but you can kind of just tell that he's not starting. And he didn't necessarily elaborate to me how he saw that, whether it's involvement or whatever. But it's like, if he looks sharp and still doesn't play, my biggest issue with it is that no one gives me an explanation. Because none of the journalists seem to ask Poch. Now, sure, there was this Chilwell quote from him yesterday, but through Chelsea, which is like, Chelsea know about the criticism. They tell Poch, say something about this, and then he says something. Do you know what I mean? That's not
and as well,
question.
like his comment on Chilwell isn't necessarily an indictment of Mudryk either. He can be talking about, it's mutually exclusive potentially.
Exactly, and it's just, I mean, obviously, there's a small chance once again that after the embargo at 10:30 tonight we get something on Mudryk. But I thought that every time for the last 4 weeks, and we never got it. So I would just like to know what exactly the problem is. Not just, he needs time. I want more detail. What is the issue? Is he not fit? Is he struggling mentally? Like, I need to know, because while I don't know, it's just frustrating. And it's not helping him, because as much as, he should, have a hard skin and, probably stay away from social media and all these things, he's not. No players do. And when you listen to podcasts of active players, ex-players, and they talk about it, they all say, even if you don't look at it, you still know what's being said about you. You always know. And these things can't help. So if fans got an explanation, I feel like also the criticism of Mudryk would calm down a little bit. So I just cannot understand why the club aren't trying to, make that situation a little bit more settled for everyone, because it just seems a whole mess to me. Because you sign him for a lot of money, the media report the higher fee every time, even though we only have to pay those when we win the Champions League and the Premier League, which, looking at it right now, is not going to happen ever. Do you know what I mean? So my guy's sadly not costing 88 million by the looks of things right now. But
I wonder if it's been settled internally within the club,
maybe.
In terms of obviously the club's priority is making sure that Mudryk is as happy as he can be, and he's okay with what's going on and how he can improve and how he can press on. And if they're happy with the way he's doing that, I guess there's no real reason to say anything to the fans, just let it do its work in the background. I think he gets a lot of stick, and I think a lot of it's unjustified, especially when you consider a lot of the context around him as a person and the scenario surrounding his transfer and all the rest of that. And it's not about making excuses. It's just about saying that's a factor as well as all the rest of it. I think he is getting a lot of stick at the moment. What I find most confusing is that people instantly look at his age and they look at his price tag, which, like you say, is usually kind of the inflated fee. Or the added on fee. And then they just make assumptions about, well, he's not performing very well, he's barely playing, so he must be terrible. And I think it's just a case of a few things. So, one, everyone needs a different amount of time to develop and get used to the league and all the rest of it. Remember, Mudryk's come from one of the weaker leagues, in the Ukrainian league, played Champions League football, but then again, Ziyech played really good Champions League football as well. So just from that perspective. But then also you got to remember that in terms of like actual games that he's played, like in terms of like minutes he's got in his career, he's a baby. You know, he's 22 years old, but you know, like he's played less minutes than like someone like Callum Hudson-Odoi. He's played less minutes than someone like
played less minutes than Hudson-Odoi has at 18.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting at. Like, you know, even at 18, you know, Hudson-Odoi's had, for example, Hudson-Odoi's had, you know, like a few years of development on him, and even he's not quite up to scratch yet. You know, like, so I do understand where people are coming from with Mudryk, because, you know, he's saying like, you know, if it doesn't come, will it ever come? And I think it will. It's just about a case of, I don't know. For me, it's just a case of being patient with him because he's on an 8-year deal. It's kind of the only choice we've got.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Absolutely. Like, it is the only choice we've got. The only thing I would say is, I think Poch and, well, the club need to make a decision. Like, are we going to play him, or are we going to, like, give him time? Because what we need to stop doing, in my opinion, is throwing him on for 10, 15 minutes when we're losing games or drawing games, and we need to throw him on to help us change things. And then he doesn't, and then he gets even more stick from the fans. That needs to stop, in my opinion. So either just, okay, have him on the bench if necessary, but don't bring him on unless we're winning. Because
I would even rather you start him and swap him out. Like,
no, absolutely. But if we're going to say Poch isn't going to start him for whatever reason that we may not know about, and he's only, you know, kind of ready for these bit part minutes, sure, but only use those bit part minutes when we're winning, not in a situation where he's going to get under more pressure, lose more confidence, get more criticism from fans. That doesn't help anybody. When the manager tells me he needs time, then the last thing he needs is coming on when we're losing 1-0 to Forest at home, and then he doesn't do it, and everyone is on his back.
I suppose it's a high-risk strategy, isn't it? Because if he comes on and changes the game and does something and everyone looks brilliant, think about how much his confidence skyrockets. But then, you know, that adds more pressure because then people call on him to start, and if he doesn't perform then for the whole game, you know, there's a lot of real issues around it at the moment. And like you say, players always know what people are thinking of them. So, you know, it does affect their confidence. I think the best thing that we can do as a fan base really is kind of try and get behind Mudryk as much as we can. Because like I said, you know, he's not going anywhere, at least not for the foreseeable. So we can either support him or we can, you know, not support him. And realistically, there's only one choice there.
No, exactly. Now, let me try to figure out your name. Not your regard, dude.
Not your regard, dude.
All right, mate. I feel like he's either missing a D or something's weird here. But, well, officially, become a member of the channel and then message me. But unofficially, message me and we'll see what we can do depending on who you are. Have you ever been on a camera before? Like, do you know what you're doing and stuff? We can make things happen. So message me, get in touch, and we'll see what we can do. If you want to make sure, then become a member, if that makes sense. But
be friends with Loz. That's what the smart people do.
That helps. Or be like Ollie, have a podcast, and I'm like, oh, this guy has a podcast. Let me get in touch with him. Do you know what I mean? You know, that also works. Whichever way you want to do it, guys. But yeah, I feel like we've spoken enough about Mudryk. I personally don't think he's starting tomorrow, so let's not waste too much of our breath on that. I guess I know we'll get to the lineups later, but I still kind of want to start on that bit of injury news, because that's also partly where all of our problems stem from, if you ask me. Reece James, well, initially it was said he wouldn't miss more games. Well, I say initially it was said he wouldn't miss more games, but the initial reports by not necessarily the biggest club sources were saying that he would be out for like just over a month, which was saying that it would include this Bournemouth game, but he might be fit after that. Doesn't quite look like that at this moment.
No, it looks
he is at least back on the pitch doing things with the ball.
Yeah, I think it needs to be a little longer yet for him. Just you know, because if he's only just doing things on the pitch with the ball, I know that's pretty vague, but it doesn't sound like that. Doesn't sound like full training, full contract training, full intensity, like nowhere near. And really, you know, like he was going to always miss this game against Bournemouth, but I think realistically he may well miss the next one as well. That's not necessarily a bad thing though, you know, because Gusto's doing fine.
Exactly. No, exactly. I mean, obviously, because he hasn't been out for that long, it probably doesn't take that long from doing something with the ball to being fit again, because you don't lose that much fitness, because he did all of preseason fine. Like, he has the ground fitness, right? So it's not going to take that long from this point onwards, but we'll obviously have to wait and see.
Thankfully, you know, like he hasn't really. Thankfully, really, for the international break, he's not missed too many games. You know, either. Yeah, and that kind of goes for all of our injured players, apart from the ones like, you know, Fofana or Nkunku are going to be out for the foreseeable. You know, people who are like Badiashile and Broja as well, who have returned to full team training now. Will have really benefited from not actually missing too many games because of the international break.
Exactly. It's a good point. And let me just bring that up as well. Badiashile and Armando Broja are both in team training in reconditioning phase. They are very close to a return. Whatever very close to a return means, it was interesting. I think the Albanian president, or was it the manager, something, I can't remember now, said that he expects Broja to be on the bench against Bournemouth. Now, this report doesn't sound like that will be the case, but still suggests that he's very close, which is going to be good. I don't think Broja will start regularly anytime soon. Maybe that cup game against Brighton, but because it's Brighton, that makes it less likely he starts again, I guess. But to have an actual striker to bring off the bench, even if he's not fully fit yet, will still be beneficial with his physical attributes. That will still be good to be able to bring on, because at the moment, like, I know we all said we had a way too big of a squad, and we clearly did. But when we sit here now and I see Poch saying we're going to go into tomorrow with a 14, 15-man squad plus a few academy players, then I'm like, oh, my days. Like, yeah, we had too big of a squad, but you don't have too big of a squad if you have 9 injuries all the time. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Then it's kind of difficult to have too big of a squad, my days. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, Badiashile is going to be interesting how he's going to do. He's only had really, how long was it? 4 months before he picked up that injury. He didn't really play in any of the big games because he wasn't allowed to play Champions League. So he didn't play. He didn't play against Dortmund. He didn't play against Real Madrid.
But he did look very good when a lot of people didn't. Yeah, exactly. I thought even when he did play, maybe it was just it's a more sort of low pressure occasion or whatever. But I thought he always looked so assured on the ball, all of that stuff. So I'm really excited to see him back, because I think realistically he's one of our best defenders.
Absolutely. And I just hope that we don't put too much faith in him, because I really don't. What I don't want to happen now is, because people forget that he is still very young too, and that if he comes back
21,
now,
22 years old.
Exactly. And if he comes back now and doesn't do that well, I just hope people don't get on his case immediately. That's why I'm kind of trying to almost jump on the hype break, if that makes sense a little bit. I'm like, let's just let him come back and see how he does again before I'm like, oh, he's our best defender. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm still happy of another player returning very soon, because bloody hell, we can't go on with 9 injuries for too much longer.
And you know what? I think people are sleeping on Broja coming back a little bit. Right? Has he proved it for us? No. Has he proved it in the Premier League? Generally, no. Right? That all of the conversation is underpinned by that, and we understand that. But I'm just excited because it seems that he seems physically in a really good spot now. Because ever since he got that injury, that I saw something come out the other day that said that he was actually feeling stronger and better than before he was injured. So it's really encouraging to hear that. And they've been deliberately very patient with Broja and bringing him back very slowly to make sure that he can have the best recovery possible. And it I don't know, it's encouraging to see. Hopefully. He can then take that and consistently stay fit and do well for us, at least as a backup striker.
Exactly. I couldn't really agree more. Let me bring up the next bit of injury news. I'll bring Aaron in when he tells me he's ready. Thank you, Aaron, for joining us, by the way, on short notice. Pochettino on Lavia. Now, initially, Nizar Kintella, before the press conference, was saying Chelsea have confirmed. That was when Chelsea released their now weekly, or whenever we play, injury report, in which Chelsea have confirmed that Lavia is continuing to be assessed for an injury. In their latest injury update, 9 players are out injured ahead of the trip to Bournemouth. And then Pochettino said on Lavia that we are really disappointed, as he was training really well. He twisted his ankle and we are waiting for the doctor. We hope it is not a big issue. We wait for an assessment. He says he doesn't know the timeline of the injury yet. Now, I can't remember exactly when it happened. I feel like it was about a week ago. Was it? I think was it last weekend or just before the weekend? I can't 100% remember. But it's been a hot minute. Initially, there was talk about a muscle tear above the ankle. Then there was talk about the ligament issue in the ankle. Still, ankle injuries, except you Eden Hazard and you break it really badly, are not usually the biggest concern. So that's the part. If this is a knee thing, I'm like, okay, you need to let the swelling go down until you can do proper MRIs and proper scannings to see what ligaments are damaged, how badly are they damaged, blah, blah, blah. But for ankles, this surprises me a little bit. So I don't really know what's going on. Also, the fact that Poch said he was training really well, but he apparently wasn't fit to play. So how was he training well then? Because if he was training well, we could have at least played against Wimbledon. I'm not saying he needs to play the Prem, but against Wimbledon he could have played. Do you know what I mean? But hey, here we are. At the end of the day, it's a bit of a tricky one. I mean, let me see. All right.
We've been raided by Lewis. Hello.
Hello, Lewis. Lewis will also join us in a minute. Bloody hell, we're getting the gang together here. Everybody that's joining from Lewis, big up yourself, hit that like button and subscribe. Aaron, let's try a mic check. Let me hear how you sound.
Can you hear me properly?
Oh, yeah,
I
you
can
sound
hear
great.
you properly. It's not quite as good as usual, but it will do the job, mate. Absolutely.
Lovely
First
stuff.
of all, thank you for coming back on. I appreciate it very much. Thoughts on this Lavia situation? Because what do you mean he twisted his ankle and now a week later we still don't know what's happening?
Like it's annoying because obviously like he hasn't even played yet. Almost 60 million, hasn't even played yet, and before he even gets a chance to play, he gets injured in training. So it's a piss take, but there's not really much you could do about it. But like when you get an ankle injury, you wouldn't presume that it keeps you out for that long if it's just like a training one. Because like when I've been playing football and I've twisted my ankle, as Pochettino says, I get up and run it off and I carry on, and I'm not injured the next day. Like how is he supposedly out for as long as he is if it's just a twisted ankle? So there's obviously more to it, which is, yeah, you'd expect it if he's going to be out for that long. But it is very annoying, and especially with Enzo Caicedo coming back late from international duty as well. It's kind of like we got no Lavia. Enzo and Caicedo might be like fatigued from travel or may not have trained much and all that sort of shit. So then you're not really left with many options. You're left with Ugochukwu and Gallagher, really. So it doesn't bode well if you've not got any of those guys properly fit or training properly. So yeah, it's a bit irritating, but it's just, I think it's the least of our concerns at this point because we're in a dire crisis. So that's only one of them.
And midfield is arguably the least of our issues for that right now. No, I do.
Yeah,
agree.
exactly.
I do agree. Ollie, your thoughts on the Lavia situation? Like, I don't want to sit here and say like, you know, I mean, there's a question from Ricardo here who's saying, question to the panel, how do you rate the medical team? I don't think this is a situation where I'm like, I can sit here and criticize or praise the medical team. This is just a situation where I'm like, well, I don't know, do I? Like, I'm not in a position to judge whether they're doing something wrong or right here. I can just say that it's frustrating that it keeps happening, and I wish it couldn't, and I wish it stopped rather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like from a larger perspective, I guess the injuries. I don't know. I wonder if it's still a holdover from starting. You know, starting this with Pochettino. You know, we had absolutely no fitness at all, no conditioning whatsoever. You know, like especially what Lampard was saying at the end of last season, where he was just saying basically the whole squad's unfit. And, you know, it's probably taken a little bit of time to get us up to a decent level of match fitness. I think we can see that. Some players can't still play 90 minutes yet. So, you know, generally around that, going from, you know, not fit at all to a really fit Poch squad, I think there's bound to be some injuries in there. I don't think that's the medical squad's fault. You know, like I don't think you can blame them for players getting injured. You know, I don't know necessarily if they are doing absolutely the right thing all the time in terms of like conditioning and recovery and all the rest of it. I don't know. It sometimes feels like they're not, but it might just be unlucky. You know, we've had a lot of dodgy contact injuries and things like that. On Lavia, it is frustrating not hearing about, you know, how long exactly he's going to be out for. I wonder if it's like a partial tear, if he's hurt something like in a funny way where actually it might be slightly based off of how he starts to recover. If he starts doing a bit of running, a bit of recovery or a bit of or whatever, and he's doing okay and it doesn't feel too bad, it might be one of them where it's like, if it doesn't feel too bad, see how you go, and then we'll be able to make a better estimate from that based on what you can do. And obviously, you know, until he can actually like do something, you know, when he's, you know, it's hard to see that. So I don't know. It could go either way. Obviously frustrating, but we'll see.
Exactly. I mean, Vic puts quite an ironic comment here saying Infinite athletes who are supposed to become our sponsor, still haven't though, pride themselves in data/injury management as they can forecast weaknesses that could lead to injuries. Now, I'm not quite sure whether the data stuff, I'm not sure whether it's quite applies in that detail to injuries. Maybe you.
I also doubt this is like implemented for us yet, if I'm honest.
Yeah, exactly. And even like if they can forecast injuries, they need to know the player. I mean, like probably not when they've just turned up. So
yeah, and I get they were partially a subsidiary of like of part of the Clear Lake group and stuff, but like they're not involved with the squad or the club or anything like that. Like they've literally just been here all of 5 minutes. So
exactly that. And to make things even better, we are now also joined by Lewis. Lewis, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it very much. I'm going to go away from the injury. Yes, mate. I'm going to go away from the injury talk straight away because the part that I want to talk about And the part that's the most frustrating and problematic part of that what's already happening, we haven't even gotten fully out of the international break, is Pochettino defending Ben Chilwell playing at left wing. He says yesterday in a video that was released by Chelsea, he says, Ben is a fullback. I know. Well, cheers, mate. Well done for knowing. But he can help the team in a different position. In animation, I think Ben, in 4 games, created more chances than anyone else, In the national team last week, I think Ben played in a similar position. Well, let's dissect this for a second.
Then
I'll let you get your thoughts on it as well, Lewis, right? First of all, what do you mean in animation? There's not FIFA, mate. There's real life. So stop talking about animation. Secondly, yes, he created more chances than anybody else because we only attack down the right-hand side, meaning no one needs to defend the left-hand side, meaning when Chile gets the ball, yes, he can cross the ball. But in the grand scheme of things, we are still heavily one-sided and therefore much easier to defend as a whole. So that's not ideal. And also, in the national team last week, yes, he played very attacking as a left-back, left-wing back, for England. But he had enough attackers in front of him. The problem isn't that Chilwell is necessarily too high up the pitch. That's not my issue. My issue is that he doesn't have enough attackers with him. Because then I have Ben Chilwell on the wing, no left back attacking behind him, no left back overlapping, and only one striker who's not even good in the air, in the box, and Raheem Sterling having to do all creative work by himself. How is that ever going to work? I do not understand how that's a thing and how a manager doesn't do that in pre-season, goes into the season, and now thinks this is a good idea, so much so that he defends it. It's mind-boggling to me. Lewis, I haven't really spoken to you about this Ben Chilwell at left-wing situation, but where do you stand on this? Like, is it just utterly ridiculous to you, or do you have some sort of explanation to make it like some sort of okay for moments?
He's going to die on this hill, and cool. Because this is what you want to do, and I've gone past the point of being annoyed about it because we know what his plan is, and it just doesn't work, and it's very weak-minded, and it's very predictable, and we need to see different. We need to see some versatility. This is the sort of stuff that he was doing back at Tottenham. He was playing back 4s. He was playing back 5s. He was moving players around and all of that, but he was getting results and changing things up when they weren't working. He's not doing that here. I always talk about the definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing and expecting different results, and that's exactly what we're doing. The only thing that I could say as maybe a slight positive is that I don't expect Bournemouth to sit back. I actually expect them to play a little bit higher forward. Apparently, they got a good high pressing system and they make a lot of chances per game. So that might work to our benefit. But in terms of situation week in and week out, every time we face a low block with this formation, we're clueless. So, I don't know. Like, we should beat Bournemouth. Whatever lineup we put out, we should be capable of beating Bournemouth. The question is, does this plan work for us long term? And I don't see it because all of our work is done on the right-hand side. You just have to catch us out in transition and hope we make a mistake. And we are making a lot of mistakes. And then just sit back even more. And just watch us make our own mistakes and twiddle our thumbs around for 70 minutes trying to figure out how to break them down. So it's up to Poch. Like, if you want to keep trying this, well, you better get results because this is the easiest run of the season. Keep saying that Arsenal game is big because everything after the Arsenal game is long for us. And if you can't handle this, I have no confidence in you for the run of games coming up. And I hate it because we're going to look like the typical stereotype for Chelsea fans, not giving a manager time. I want to give him time. I also can't waffle about standards and everything like that and then make excuses for a guy constantly making mistakes and it impacting our results. So you clearly want to keep persisting with Chilwell on the left. It's not helping the younger players who play left wing who could do with that development. But we need to see results. Because if you don't get results, you're going to lose the fan base very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't really have put it much better. The only thing I would kind of want to touch on is in terms of if Bournemouth play a bit more attacking, a bit more of a press and therefore leave a few more spaces and not just sit there in a low block. Yeah, in an ideal world, you could argue that works for us better. But to me, that works better for us because of Jackson and Sterling. If anything, Chilwell, that makes it even more annoying to me because I'm like, then you have even more crucial... Like, look at him when he tried to lay it off against Luton. The man is not the man that you want in decisive final third actions when you're under pressure because you need to move quick because you're counter-attacking.
And that's a worry because that's exactly what Pochettino said, more or less. He said that he trusts, Chile to make the right decisions in those moments. And from what we've seen this season, that's not very likely. So for me, he shouldn't be playing there. If Poch wants to die on this hill, it's only going to cause him issues in the long run, because like Lewis says, long term, there's no way Chile's going to be a left wing for seasons and seasons for us. This very much feels like a stopgap option at the moment before we can put a proper winger in there. And if we were going to do that, we may as well just put one of our very many, decent young wingers in there. Let them develop, let them make mistakes, and stick Chilwell where he's supposed to play.
Exactly. And it's not just that we have Mudryk, because like Zula says here, what's your solution? And he clearly has reservations on Mudryk, and he's not the first one in that. Absolutely fine. But now Madueke is fit. He played for the under-21s. He played for us before the international break. Madueke is fit now. He can now play Sterling on the left, Madueke on the right. He has that option. In the last game against Forest, maybe he didn't have that option because Madueke just had his first start against Wimbledon. Fair enough. But now he does. So if he now does Chilwell at left wing again, now I'll become seriously annoyed. I know what you said, Lewis, that you kind of passed the point of getting annoyed about it. I get that. But at the same time, the longer he does it, the more inexplicable it gets. Because when he first did it against Liverpool, everyone was like, nah, he's only doing it against Liverpool because Trent moves into midfield and he wants someone to help cover that. Sure, we had an excuse for this one. Then, all right, we played pretty well. That's why we're doing it again against West Ham. Then it didn't work against West Ham, but we did it again against Luton. Okay, we won 3-0. That's why we did it again against Forest. But at what point does it end? Aaron, where do you stand on this? Especially when you see the match, like we're all in agreement that it shouldn't be happening. But when the manager just keeps being adamant that it's a good idea, like there's nothing more frustrating to me from managers. I don't know how you see that, but to me, this is one of the most frustrating things that managers can do. It's a bit like, I don't know, there's been a few examples over time, like certain managers keep sticking with Marcus Alonso at left wing back. Thomas Tuchel always sticking with a back three when we didn't have the perfect squad for a back three due to injuries and stuff at times. And he forced play like Ruben Loftus-Cheek playing right wing back and Hudson-Odoi playing right wing back and Pulisic playing right wing back. I'm like, just play a different formation and let the players play in positions that they're good in. Like it's to me, it's just so frustrating. Yeah, you can do your crazy things if they work, but please, for the love of God, if we are 12th after 4 games, if we have had our worst start to the Premier League since 1995, after finishing 12th last season, the last thing we needed is a bad start to the season, and that's exactly what we got. And now what we shouldn't be doing is experimenting with playing left backs at wing on the wing. And someone said, yeah, pre-season and the season is something very different. Yeah, Ricardo, I get it. But at the same time, if he wanted
it shouldn't
to do
be.
something like
it shouldn't be. That's what the problem is.
It shouldn't be. But use pre-season to do something. If you're going to do something out of the ordinary, practice it in pre-season. Don't just turn up.
What we did in pre-season worked, and we just went away from it, all because of the Nkunku injury.
And it's ridiculous.
And now we have players that can play in that role, and try and improve our attack. This whole Chilwell at left wing thing doesn't make sense to me because all the attacking ideas you have for it, you could train Mudryk to do that, a guy who's actually in the position and the guy that we actually need to develop. But we're playing Chilwell at left wing for no reason, or just not for no reason, again, because he tracks back. But it's again a net negative because he can't defend. So what's the point of that? All his best attributes are meant to be going forward. You might as well develop Mudryk in that position. Like I know people writing off Mudryk already. We have given him the worst climate to succeed for any youth player. A guy has had 7 starts for us, comes off the bench for 10, 15 minutes, usually when we're drawing or losing a game, has 1 or 2 mistakes and doesn't get any opportunities to build off it. Mudryk needs a run of games at left wing, or Maatsen, or I don't care. But play one of the younger left wingers and let them develop. One of the big things about Pochettino was meant to be his youth development. Other than Sterling, I've not seen that. And Sterling ain't even a youth player.
No, other than Gallagher, you could argue. He did get better.
Actually, yeah,
Gallagher.
The
level that we want him to be still. Sorry?
Gallagher's been much better, I'll give you that.
Yeah, there you go. Aaron, where do you stand on this Ben Chilwell left wing back debate? And not just that, but more importantly, Pochettino defending it.
I can't lie, I'm just tired, man. I don't need this shit, do you know what I'm saying? Like I've got bigger worries in life than fucking Ben Chilwell playing left back. Like it's actually
you should
stupid,
have, but you don't.
Bro, it's actually dumb. Like think about it. You've got Mudryk who could play on the left. You've got Sterling who could play on the left, which then allows Madueke to go on the right. You've got Martin, who you've been playing further forward, who can also play on the left. And they're all probably better in that position specifically than Ben Chilwell.
Even Jackson could play off the left as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then we
but
just
if
don't
Jackson
have
goes
another
off the left,
striker.
then no one goes up front. Well, currently no one goes up front because then we got no more fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, beside the point, it's just like you're carrying on with the same shit, and there's clearly no change. Like the best, I think you can see from the start of the season to now, doing this Ben Chilwell left back thing, it started at a certain point and it's just gone downhill even further each time. And it's like I don't understand what it's gonna take for him to finally see this and realize this shit does not work. Like it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. Like we're no fucking managers or pundits, but we got eyes. We can see this shit for ourselves. Like we go to the games, we watch this shit from the stands. You're closer than we are, and we can still see that this shit does not work. So I don't know what it's gonna take for him to register in his head that this ain't it. But I don't know. I feel like a part of it comes from Sterling playing very well on the right and Mudryk just not being up to it. So it might be one of those situations where he feels like he might not have many other options, so he's trying something out. But at the same time, it's kind of like you should be playing players in their natural positions where they're going to be best at. Because Chilwell, even if he was at left back and not a wing back or a winger, whatever, even if he was at a left back, he'd still be doing much better than he is as a left winger. That's just a given. His natural game is more defense orientated than attack orientated. So why would you veer him away from that and go and do the exact opposite of what he's meant to be good at? It doesn't make sense to me. And then it hinders someone like Levi Colwill, who gets shoehorned into that left back position when really he should be in the centre, and he doesn't look as good as he normally would be when he's playing in that left back role because it's not his game. Do you know what I mean? So that one decision leads to many other things being affected as well, and it's just a load of shit, to be honest. I'm hoping that he brings an end to this sooner rather than later, but a part of me doesn't think that we're going to be seeing the last of this. I feel like this is going to probably go on for a little bit longer yet. So I'm just getting
like we're going to see it on and off throughout the season. I think there'll be a point where like even Poch can see that like it's not working, but I think we'll still end up going back to it at times when other things also aren't working.
But that point of seeing that it's not working should have been 3 games ago. Like it's 3 games too late. Do you know what I mean? And
I get that, but I fully understand that from Poch. I also kind of see his reasoning to a certain degree. You know, get more experience on the pitch. Have someone who apparently is once supposed to be one of our better attackers higher up the pitch, closer to the goal. But I don't know. I just feel like you sacrifice so much so many other things by putting Chilwell where you put him there.
Yeah. I completely agree. I was very confused then because Lewis turned his camera off and had my Abby there. That was confusing. I will take this and continue kind of along the similar discussion because not directly with Chilwell at left wing, but still about things that Poch says, which confuse me. Pochettino reiterated again that he has been happy with Chelsea's performances so far this season. They just didn't get the point they deserved. Now that applies against Liverpool, I guess, but I would say in the grand scheme of things, a draw was fair. So I would say we did get the points we deserved.
I don't know. I thought we dominated Liverpool. Thought we deserved to win.
Yeah.
After the first 20 minutes,
deserved to win, but
yeah,
they hit the bar. They had a offside goal disallowed. That was very narrowly offside. If that's 2-0, they batter us. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think we can sit here and say, "Oh, we deserve to win." So very clearly, right? I think a draw in the grand scheme of things was still fairly okay. Then against West Ham, if we take our penalty, we probably win that game. But we didn't. And at the end of the day, in the second half, played dreadfully, kept making defensive errors and didn't really create much. So where has the deserved the points come from here then? Against Luton, sure, we won that game, but it's probably the worst team in the league. So congratulations for that. Against Forest, I just wholeheartedly disagree that we played good. Like there was maybe a 15, 20-minute spell in that game towards the end of the first half where we played half decent. Otherwise, I thought we were awful. Like, it's just weird to me how, at the same time, obviously, certain parts make sense because, like, against Liverpool, the game is more open, so you will look better. It's not like that is the case. I understand that. When you are up against a low block, it will never look as pretty, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're doing badly. But no one can tell me what we did against Forest was good. I mean, Lewis, obviously, this is more overall, but in specifically him talking about the Forest game. what do you think when you sit there and see the manager say that we played well against Forest and didn't get what we deserved? Like, how can he say we played well against Forest? Like, what is the expectation? At the same time, he sits there and says we want to win now, we want to win this season. I'm like, but if you want to win now in this season, you can't tell me and the players that they did well against Forest. Like, how can Like, what do you think when you see that, or do you think we did play well? Because maybe some people did. I don't know.
I'm just hoping he's trying not to throw the players under the bus.
Yeah,
I'm hoping
that's
it's
what I
something
think it
like
is.
that.
Just trying to keep confidence in the squad early days. Like if you were having a bit of a wobble early on, like if Poch can navigate that and still with the players' confidence intact, I think that'll be a pretty good result really. Because I agree, I don't think there's any way Pochettino can watch that game against Forest and say that realistically that we were good. I think he's just trying to protect the players.
Exactly.
This early, I wouldn't be too annoyed about that. I know people in the comments saying it sounds like Potter. Potter was getting ripped for that after being here for about 4 months.
But that's because in his first 10 games, he didn't lose one.
Yeah, that as well.
Compare that to Poch right now.
Yeah, it took Potter having a massively bad run, longer than 4 or 5 games. So I don't mind those comments right now. I just try to ignore press conferences at this point. They're all just depressing. Just let me know who's fit and who isn't, and other than that, I don't care.
Fair dues. I mean, Ollie, did you see the same as Lewis in that sense, where you're like, it's too early to get so critical over small, in quotation marks, small comments like that? Or is it still not necessarily like a damning fact or like a sackable offense by any means, but still a bit concerning? Because it is a bit concerning in my book.
Maybe, but at the same time, I see it more in Lewis's way, really. That the thing is about football, and especially about press conferences, and we'll even see, I'm sure we'll get into this when we discuss the Winstanley and Stewart interview, is that talk is cheap. Like, people are always going to say what, especially in sport, what you want to hear. So whether that's for the players in this case, or whether it's for the fans in other cases. So, I see better than I hear. So I'd rather wait and see the results of what Pochettino's trying to do, rather than slating him 4 games into the season for saying we were good against a team that we weren't.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe that is a better way of looking at it. Aaron, do you have the mental capacity to look at it from that perspective as well? Or even if it's just been 4 games, is it still enough to kind of get under your skin a little bit when he says we played well when we just didn't?
This club took all my mental capacity last season, but even now to this point, it's still it just baffles me. Like, he needs to understand that we're not thick, we're not stupid. We watch these games for the full 90 minutes. Some of us go to the ground and watch it. We're literally paying money to watch the bag of shit that we do most weeks. So for him to come out and say that we've performed well, you can say in spells of games we have performed well. But as a collective, no, we haven't. And it's very concerning that we haven't, given the fact that we've got the talent in the squad that we do. We should be doing a lot better. And a lot of that can then be put down to sort of how he goes about doing one thing in pre-season and completely changing it to the start of the season to something new that they haven't worked on throughout the whole of pre-season. And then it means you have to have that learning period where you try to understand the system and what the manager wants you to do in your specific position. And if you're going to do that and change completely from one end to the other from pre-season to now, it's going to then take you time. So there's not really any surprise that we're in the sort of situation that we are right now. But in that same vein, it does piss you off because you think we've had our worst season probably ever last season. And then now you're thinking this is your time to come back and show that you're still one of the big guys in the league, and you've spent as much as you have. You've brought in so much talent. You've got the record-breaking signing for the Premier League, one of the most expensive ever in your midfield. Well, two of them in your midfield. And you're struggling to win football games. You've only beaten the newly promoted team who shouldn't even be in the Premier League because they're pure shit. They got very fortunate in the playoffs, but other than that, you drew against the Liverpool team who didn't really have a competent midfield at that point, and then you've lost to West Ham and Forest, where you definitely shouldn't have lost to Forest at home. That's something that can't be overlooked at all. Like, it's ridiculous. And then you lose to West Ham, where okay, we might not have the greatest of records at the London Stadium. I think it's called that, but
Yeah.
still, they're.
I mean, we criticised every other manager when they didn't win there. Just because it's happened many times in a row now doesn't mean Poch shouldn't get criticised.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, we don't have a good record, but still, you played a decent game against Liverpool. So to then come to West Ham and perform in the way that you did was pretty shocking. And then it's kind of like you just want to see so much more, and you know that the players have the potential, but it's kind of like we're not seeing anything right now, and you don't really know where to sort of look to for that bit of inspiration to keep your head up and be like, okay, there is good things to come this season.
Yeah, exactly. Like against Liverpool, sure. Again, after West Ham, okay, it was one game. Then we beat Luton, and we was all like in an okay place, I think. As much as Wimbledon was a bit of a grind, we still at least won that game, even if only a few of us managed to actually see that when they watched the game in person. But then that Forest game...
Be grateful you didn't see it.
Yeah, that's also one way of looking at it. But that Forest game, it just took it out of me. And it's just one of those things at the moment. Like, if everything else went well, I would be a little bit less critical of these things. But one of the other things that irks me at the moment, and people say I'm just negative all the time at the moment, and maybe that is the case, but I feel like people are pretending there are way more positives than there are in reality to me. Like, yes, we signed well in some cases. We signed a great player in Enzo. We hopefully signed a great player in Caicedo. He looks a great player from where we signed him from. But everything else is a bit up in the air. Jackson looks like we did something well there, but he's still the player with the furthest behind his own XG of the entire league. Now, that isn't going to be the case for the whole season, but you still can't tell me that isn't exactly the same type of forward issue that we've always had. Now, yeah, different kinds of issues, but essentially for 4, 5, 6 years, we've always said, yeah, but we aren't finishing. We aren't clinical. No matter who we've signed. And now we seem to be praising these directors and owners for signing players. I'm okay, we have a good defense, even though we're playing a centre-back and left-back, so that makes our defense less good. We unnecessarily signed Disasi, who's now starting every game, when I hoped as a backup I'd be okay with him, but he's now starting all the time because of injuries and forcing Colwell at left-back. Then we have a great midfield. I'm happy with the midfield. I think all of us are. Sure, we got unlucky with a few injuries, in Nkunku and Chukwuemeka as well. But no one can tell me that our attack is a good enough attack, really. Like, they all have potential. Madueke can be a great player. Mudryk can be a great player. Jackson can be a great player. But as of right now, the only great player there is Raheem Sterling. And for us, he hasn't been great other than 2 of the first 4 games. Maybe 3 of the first 4 games, if we want to be nice.
I think things are encouraging, though. There are encouraging signs. While things aren't where we want them to be, things are improving, I think. Because... I know people don't like to talk about stats and XG and stuff all the time, but like in every demonstrable statistic at the moment, we're supposedly in one of the top 3, 4, 5 teams in the league, especially in terms of expected points or whatever it is. We're supposed to be up there with Arsenal and Man City.
Bro,
so
that was the same
shows
case
that
last year under Potter.
I agree, but I think there's something to be said about that. There's an underlying something there that really, it seems like the finishing is the biggest issue. Like I think people are really quick as well to get on the back of someone like Jackson, because again, he's not been here very long. You've got someone like Evan Ferguson who scores 3 goals, scored 3 goals recently for Brighton. We all know he's class as a young player, and everyone's singing his praises. People forgetting, he's not got as high an XG as Jackson has. Jackson's produced more than he has. So, he's getting into the right positions again. And like we say, like we've been saying for seasons and seasons, it's the finishing that's letting us down. But something has to change there. Something has to give. We can't just continually be shit at finishing forever. Something eventually will come our way.
We have been since Diego Costa was at the club, bro. So, it is kind of forever. So, why would it have been the case for this many years and now randomly all of a sudden stop? I get your point, and I'm not saying everything's bad. I'm just saying we have a very good midfield. We signed top players there, top players that are still young with potential to get even better. Same in defense, but in attack and in goal, and I just don't get where a lot of the praise comes from. And now I want to get in this interview, and I will read through parts of it and I said that in the intro today, where I'm like, essentially, we're going to read through an interview where 2 people are telling us why they are doing such a great job. Well, obviously, they're not going to say they're going to do a bad job, are they? Because it's their own job. But yeah, Paul Winstanley and Laurenz Stewart. Also, Chelsea's website. What is this? White writing on the overlit background. I can't even read it. Sorry, but Someone needs to be sacked here. Anyway, we had to make changes to put the club in a better position. Paul Winstanley and Laurenz Stewart, you'll know their names, not the people behind them. It's why our co-sporting directors have decided to sit down and discuss their time at Chelsea so far. There's a lot to talk about. And yes, there is. We're not going to get through everything, but we're going to try to highlight the most important points. I'm going to start a little bit and then jump over more as we go on. The late morning sun flickers across the desk as Winstanley and Stewart, coffees in hand, take their seats. They cut relaxed figures, although the stresses and strains of an intense summer transfer window still linger. Winstanley joined Chelsea from Brighton and Hove Albion in December. Stewart arrived from Monaco in February. Both understood the job in hand at Stamford Bridge. There was significant work to be done on and off the pitch. Then to start quotes from Winstanley, he says, "We knew there was going to be a big transition. No chance to sit back and relax, that's for sure. Did we think we would oversee a Premier League record of transactions? Probably not. First worrying bit. So they didn't know that was going to happen. Brilliant. So what did they think was going to happen? I don't know. But the average age of the squad was high. We had players with contract issues, which had been inherited from an ownership change. And then there were players who made it clear they wanted to leave. That needed to be addressed. Yet no decision was taken in haste, be it the appointment of Mauricio Pochettino as head coach or the recruitment of players. He goes on to say the volume of players out, the volume of players in, the turnaround has been significant, explains Stewart. But there were certain things we had to achieve for the club and the group this summer because results on the pitch at the end of last season made it clear it wasn't working. We need to make changes to put the club in a better position. We feel we've done that. You've taken us from 12th to 12th. Brilliant. And then Winstanley goes on to say, Laurence and I sat long and hard with the ownership to discuss the type of person and the attributes a head coach would need to have success at this club. It was a lengthy process and we interviewed several different candidates and different types of people. Okay, all of us are already over Poch. Like, not over in terms of we want him gone again, but like, I don't care about your decision for why you signed Poch. No one cares at this point anymore. But anyway, leadership, blah, blah, blah. They're happy with how he does things day to day. Amazing. It was a huge appointment for the club. Again, where is the standards? How is Pochettino? Like, it's a good appointment, but huge appointment. Who are we? We're not Brighton, mate. Anyway, I'm sorry if I'm sounding a bit negative, but this just annoys me. Like, he's just saying, they're just telling us how great of a job they're doing when they're not doing it.
I actually don't blame you for being annoyed at that one. Like, it's not a huge appointment. It's not.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they're literally telling us how a great job they're doing, and they're not.
I agree with parts of it, but it's just the way they're saying it doesn't sound great. But I agree with the crux of what they're saying.
Yeah. Like, I think that the overall what they're trying to say is that things are now moving in the right direction, and maybe that's true. But at the same time, talk is cheap. We'll see it on the pitch. Thanks.
Exactly. That's the point. Like, yes, things could be moving in the right direction, but we also thought, but in 2020, we thought we signed a bunch of great players when we signed Havertz and Werner and Ziyech and whoever else we signed. At the time, we thought we signed good players. Now, it turns out 3 years later, we didn't. None of them are here anymore. Right? Other than Thiago Silva, who we got this summer.
Malang Sarr is technically still at the club.
And that couldn't even get rid of him in terms
that
of
was also when we weren't really involving the manager in decisions. Like, Havertz was a board signing.
Yeah, he was.
Lukaku, another board
signing, I guess, because no one else could afford him. But at the same time, Ziyech Lampard wanted Ziyech, so you know.
He wanted Ziyech. Yeah, he got what he wanted.
Who do I back here more?
You wanted Ober off a top goal scoring season. Like, that one was more annoying.
And he did want Rice as well. To be fair, Lampard.
He did want Rice, but he also wanted.
I was never against that. It was just too expensive.
Yeah. Let's not forget, he also wanted James Tarkowski. Do you know what I
mean? Like it swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah, but that's my point. Though. Like, I'm not saying they're necessarily doing a bad job at everything. I'm not trying to claim that, even if I might come across like that at some point. The thing I don't like is saying that they've done a great job when we don't know yet. I'm not saying they've done a bad job, but we don't know yet if they've done a great job.
Yeah.
Do you think they're saying
they feel like they've put us in a good position? Like, no, don't say that now. Like, when we're 12th. No,
exactly.
Say that when we're top of the table, and then like, cool, we're with you, but not now. Yeah. We're on the road to getting there. Cool, I'm with you. Not we're there now.
I do feel like this interview is like, it does feel like it's come too soon. It feels like this has come too early. Like, I feel like there's be a lot less pressure on the sporting directors if this came out. Like Lewis says, you know, maybe in a few months when we're in a better position in the league. I think nobody's going to be happy with anything the club says. Nobody's going to be happy with anything the club says while we are where we are. That's kind of the reality of it.
Especially while it's, and I understand they're not necessarily camera people and stuff, but I'm like, a written interview, like, I don't even have proof they actually said this. Some ghostwriter could have written every word of this. I have no idea. Yeah, they took some pictures. Brilliant. Some overlit pictures. Amazing. Do you know what I mean? But let's get through the transfer window bit here and see what we think of that. Throughout the summer transfer window, which closed on September 1st, communication between Stewart, Winstanley and Pochettino was constant. Countless conversations took place at Cobham and during pre-season tour of the United States. The work undertaken on the squad was collaborative. But still, Poch said in multiple press conferences that he needs experience, and the player that the club signed was Cole Palmer. So where is the collaborative work?
Experience winning a treble, my goat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it goes on to say it has resulted in a new look men's squad, the average age of which is a little over 22 years old. It is a group built to compete under Pochettino in the Premier League this season, but also in the years ahead. The ownership has supported us, bringing in the players we have, says Stewart. The talent we have in the group is really exciting, and the dynamic day-to-day is really pleasing. Is it? It's not pleasing to me. That was one of our objectives, something we wanted to develop after last season. The combination of the players we've brought in and the coaching staff is one we're really happy with. We've got a lot of talent. Now we need to let that develop and grow. And that's an important and fair point. We need to let that develop and grow. The problem that I have is that the manager is sat there in every interview telling me that he wants to win right now. And that's not develop and grow. And that's why I'm like, I just think the club give us mixed signals in every shape and form they can. On the one hand,
but what do you want Poch to say? Do you want Pochettino to be like, no, we can't win now?
Yes, I want truth. I hate I know people hated it for Potter, but I'm like, Potter was telling the truth, man. Like, I know people hated it, and I get it.
But that's what I'm getting at.
It's no better to claim we're going to be able to win and then come 12th.
I agree, but unfortunately, people like comforting lies over uncomfortable truths, right? Like if Pochettino comes out tomorrow, if he comes out tomorrow and says, "Yeah, we're not,"
did that as a collective though, because we're not behind that. We're gonna win now as a collective. It feels like it's only Poch that says this. I read an interview from the directors, and they're talking about we need that to let that develop and grow. So they're not saying the same thing as Poch, and that's where the problem comes in for me. Like, if they all said the same thing, I'd still question it. How realistic is it? But at least they'd all be saying the same thing.
It's different.
But we're getting different messages.
But that's because they're in different areas of what they're trying to do. Pochettino, as the coach, is always going to be pressured to win now. The sporting directors, they're going to be here for however long. Pochettino might not be here next year. So we can't look at things in the exact same way. Ideally, they should, and it should be more cohesive than it is. But at the same time, like, if Pochettino comes out tomorrow and says, "No, I don't think the squad's ready, and I think we're going to struggle this season, and we're not going to win anything," like, one, what does that have in terms of motivation for the players, and the fan base as well? Like, the coach has to say that stuff. Like, unfortunately, whether you want to hear it or whether you don't want to hear it, he has to say it.
Yeah, and that is also true. And I'm not trying to say that I don't want him to say he wants to win, but he reiterates it so much that he's like, that is our aim to achieve right now. And he's not like, but at the same time, in the same sentence, he will tell me the players will perform with time. Yeah, but with how much time? And if we didn't just experience last season, I would be a lot less annoyed by these things. But because I just experienced last season, we're essentially the same thing, like, it felt the same. Right now and last October felt identical to me. Yes, a very different squad. Yes, a very different thing. But we still had just changed the manager. Yes, we still had just changed the ownership. The ownership have been here for a year longer, and it doesn't feel like they have much more of a clue what they're doing than a year ago. Maybe that's me being a bit harsh, and it's the performances and results right now that aren't helping. But I just don't like telling other fans that we're going to win right now. And then when we don't, the fans go in on every single player, which makes all of those players succeeding a lot less likely. Because at the end of the day, if you bank on talent, then you need to nurture the talent.
And that should be Pot's cross to bear then. Like, if he says we're going to win now and then we don't, then it's on him, isn't it?
Yeah, but the fans don't act like that, though. The fans sit there in the stand of the England game and tell Mudryk he's shit.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that, but ultimately the accountability at the end of the day falls with Pochettino. Especially, if he's saying that we want to win now, then they'll take him at his word. If he's wrong, then he should be sacked.
Yeah, but he won't get sacked, though, will he?
Well,
they're not going to sack another manager. Like, how bad? Like, we'd have to be in a relegation zone for them to sack him, in my opinion.
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Not that far off.
what annoys me is, like you said, Laurence, where he says, yeah, win now. And then he also says, oh, you'll see when everyone comes back when the injuries are done. And it's like, okay, well, which is it then? You know, and that's where I find that his messages his message consistently from him hasn't been as consistent. You know, because we can't expect. I don't personally believe that we can expect like everyone at the club to have the same goals and ambitions and say the exact same thing. They should, but I don't think we can expect that. So, but I'm not happy with Pochettino's personal consistency around whether we should win or not, because you know whether we should win now or win later. Because I don't know, it feels a bit wishy-washy.
Yeah, it feels a bit wishy-washy, and it also doesn't feel like he selects teams with the aim winning is the only option. It doesn't feel like that. Maybe that's me. I'm happy to potentially admit that. But yeah, I'll keep going on with a few quotes from Winstanley. He says, there will always be flexibility in terms of the players we bring to the club, whether that's their personality, squad role, or age, which I think is an important factor. Let's see how that goes in the next few years, I guess. This summer, a lot of players were brought in who are under 23 years old, but many of these already have a lot of top-level experience. How many?
It's not. It doesn't feel like.
Tell me one.
Yeah.
One player that we signed this summer that has a lot of top-level experience. Because
It depends what you mean by a lot.
Sign him this summer.
It depends what you mean by a lot.
Yeah.
Realistically, you know, like arguably Cole Palmer has
experience.
I was going to say, and it depends what you mean by top level. You know, arguably you could say someone like Cole Palmer has better top level experience than Caicedo does.
Without a doubt.
So you know, it's just saying. It's like I don't know. It's not necessarily one way or the other.
Exactly, but that's yeah. But why are you saying this? Top level experience, but they don't. Just don't say it. Like there's no need for this unnecessary lie. But anyway, with this group of players, the excitement is building. You can feel it daily. There will be setbacks. There always are, and it can take time. New players, new head coach, different philosophy, and many of the players not being able to complete the full preseason for one reason or another. And that's all. This is all totally true and totally fair, and this applies. And these are the excuses. That yes, people don't like excuses, and people say, "Oh, we are Chelsea. We shouldn't have these excuses." But no, this is fair. Of course, having a new squad, having a new staff, having still kind of a new ownership from only a year ago, having a lot of players injured, a lot of players not only injured but missed preseason, like Madueke, for example. Of course, those things are going to have teethering issues. But the problem is no one's saying that. Like, we're not sitting there after and like, yeah, you know, we're struggling a little bit, but we're trying our best to like get through this tough time and then come out at the better end. No, we're saying we played well against Forest and Chilwell at left wing is a good idea. You know, that's kind of, because I'm like, if you just said this, no one would have a problem with it because this is totally understandable and totally correct. But we're not saying this because we're Chelsea and the expectation is to win every day. Sure. But the expectation isn't becoming a reality. So now we have this expectation, but we lose instead. So
I'm not sure it's that deep, if I'm honest. I think ultimately this interview is the sporting directors trying to effectively put a bit more of a personality and a name to the faces so they get less abuse online.
Oh no, now I know I was complaining the whole time, so I get why you got it mixed up. But in this case, I wasn't even complaining about what Winstanley, I think it was Winstanley, he has said. I think he makes it, this is absolutely fair to say. It's more again back to the point where I'm like, it's collaborative work, but they're saying different things to me. Where I'm like.
But that's what I'm saying is I'm not sure it's that deep. I think they're just saying things to say them.
Yeah, but everyone's saying that's why Poch is saying it, only to say it. But if you're only saying things to say them, at least say the same thing, no?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I absolutely possible that I'm too harsh, but it's just when I even got the notification of this on exclusive interview with sporting directors. When has any club ever done that? Do you know what I mean? Especially while being 12th. Anyway, it won't happen overnight. That's normal, but we're all excited about what the short, medium, and long term looks like with this group, with Pochettino leading it. Aaron, I feel like I haven't gotten your thoughts involved in it as much. I've done a lot of complaining. I'm aware of that. Do you understand my complaints? Do you think I'm moaning about this a bit too much, or where do you sit in terms of what these guys have said in comparison to what we hear from Poch, in comparison to what we see on the pitch?
No, to be fair, I didn't even read or listen to any of this before, so this is like the first time I'm actually seeing it. But
yeah,
in terms of like when he said, either one of them, when they said, we're excited for the short term, what is there to be excited about in the short term? We get pammed left, right, and centre, and they're talking about being excited for the short term. They must enjoy some weird fetishes of being beaten or spanked every week, because
They're
that's what's
masochists,
happening on the
aren't
pitch. And I'm not being funny. You're coming out with these statements saying this kind of shit, but you're not really resonating with the fans, because I don't know any fan right now who is excited for the short term. I don't go into the weekend excited to expect to not win a football game. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've grown up on my team winning almost every week, so I have no excitement in going to a game with no confidence. So I don't really understand that from that perspective. But it's very odd as well to see sporting directors come out and do an interview like that. I've never seen it before from any other club. I could just be like not paying attention and missed it or whatever, but I've not seen it before, and it just feels like a lot of PR bullshit, in my opinion. Like, they know that the fans are disgruntled. We've been down bad for a season and a half, give or take. So it's kind of like you're trying to put something out there, words of encouragement, and really, I don't think anyone's going to buy into it. So for me, it's just very unnecessary. Like, I don't see the whole point in doing an interview with the sporting directors.
Yeah, no, I agree. And maybe it works for some people, but for me, seemingly, as you can tell, guys, for me, it's having the opposite effect. You know, it's not, the PR isn't exactly working for me. But yeah, they do say some good things, which obviously, like Ollie said, they're kind of saying those things to say them, but they're still right. Like, we want players that want to fight for the club, that want to fight every day for each other, for results, for the supporters, for the staff. The club knows how to win. It knows how to succeed. Well, I hope so. I hope so, because there's not really many left of those that do know that. But I hope that still remains true. So it's important to bring in players that align with building something special here, and we will get stronger as a team and a club as we head deeper into the season. The hard work doesn't stop for Winstanley and Stewart now the transfer window is closed. First, they will reflect and review the transfer business concluded in the summer, then planning for future windows begins. Squad planning is a never-ending process, a continuous craft. They say we will plan 2 transfer windows in advance, explains Winstanley. We can't be reactionary. We've got to look at the whole squad, the players that are out on loan, and opportunities we can give to players in the academy. That is a player puzzle we've got to pull together. Stewart continues, we'll go through that review and reflection process now as we continue with the plan. Then, as we get closer to January, we look at things again. Is there anything urgent we need? Is anything pressing? Or is there an interesting opportunity? In the afterglow of the summer window, transfers have naturally dominated the conversation, yet Winstanley and Stewart's roles stretch far beyond recruitment. They oversee all football staff at Chelsea, including the women's team and the academy, and want to ensure each receives the same support. And yeah, the rest of it is kind of a bit more waffle. Obviously, goes on to the women's team, which the women's team don't need help. Just let Emma Hayes do her thing and don't get involved too much, really.
Yeah, just stay out of the way.
and like they say here, which I'm glad about, by the way, where they say, where is it? Yeah. Emma's done an incredible job and created a very strong culture. We are keen to soak as much of that up as we can. Oh, that is the best thing they said in the whole bit, in my opinion. But yeah, then Levi Colwell, Reese's passion for the club. Yeah, we know that. I want him to be fit, please. And yeah, I think I'll just leave the rest of this for now. But Lewis, if you want to jump in more, I know you said earlier that it's not as deep as maybe I've put it. Fair enough. But
no, I think the biggest problem is just the delivery. Yeah. They've said a lot of things that doesn't sound that good when you hear it, but I understand what they're trying to say. They're trying to say that they had to make a massive change and there was going to be setbacks on the pitch as a result of that. And I understand that. I completely accept all of that. It's just we need to keep developing. Don't say it's done. Don't say we've got to that point. No, we've made steps forward and they're necessary steps. I understood what they meant when they said they didn't expect to be spending this much money. They probably didn't expect to be having this big of a clear out. So I get that part. It's just the delivery could have been a bit better. Other than that, is what it is. I feel like it's just something for fans to get a better idea of what they've done or what they plan to do.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm just going to try to find a different thing. And where is that thing now? Let me just quickly find it because we don't have... There you go. Well, I'll bring up a different thing on screen. This is an article by The Telegraph. I'm not going to go through all of it. They're talking about a bit of a rundown of what's happening at Chelsea, how the ownership essentially want to build a squad that can get 100 points by the end of the season. Yeah, like I said, I made the same joke earlier. But the important bit is kind of the consortium, led by Ekbali and Boehly, may yet acquire a stake in Sporting Lisbon, Sporting CP, of course, one of the Portuguese big three. Not the biggest conversation, but just quickly. I'll start with you, Wally. What do you make of that? Especially because it's going to be a minority stake if it does happen. Do you think that's smart? Do you think it's kind of up in the air? Let's see how it goes. Or do you think it may be a bad idea?
I mean, from the like maybe the multi-club model, it's a smart idea. You know, obviously Sporting are really good at developing talent. You know, they get lots of young players who are obviously very good, gone on to do a lot of great stuff. Do have some slight reservations over just like what it would mean for us, you know, like to have a minor stake in such a massive club. Like I wouldn't necessarily want us, you know, just for football's sake, I wouldn't want us necessarily to take away anything from Sporting's culture and all of that stuff as well. You know, we've got to be careful. I think a lot of people are very quick in our multi-club model to sort of like immediately label clubs like, oh, you're a tiny feeder club now for us. And we've got to respect the other clubs that are going to be part of our multi-club model, because ultimately they're going to be helping us. You know, so it's important to have respect for them. Ultimately, I think it'd be reasonably good move. I think it depends how much say that we actually do have and how much of a stake we actually do keep in Sporting, like whether that actually translates to just us doing like loan deals easier, or whether we can get them to buy players who we can then buy, and if we can do that for cheaper, you know, like then it all kind of makes more sense. I guess the proof will really be in the pudding on this one.
Yeah, there you go. I'll just read this paragraph quickly, and then I'll get Lewis and Aaron's thoughts on this. There is a sense that this Ekbali-Boehly consortium is moving so fast that more major decisions are just around the corner. There are serious plans to take a minority stake in Sporting Lisbon, having just acquired a majority stake in Ligue 1 club Strasbourg for £65 million as a destination for development players. The multi-club model is the staple of European football's biggest powers now, but the Sporting... Bloody hell, sorry. Sirens are distracting me. But for Sporting to be a junior partner in any such arrangement is quite a leap. They're 19 times Portuguese champions and historically UEFA Cup winners Cup winner. UEFA Cup winners Cup winner, fair enough. There is an acceptance that for the Sporting deal to happen, it will have to be handled a lot more sensitively than the usual acquisition of an archetypal smaller European club desperate for investment. Strasbourg and potentially Sporting in the future will be designed to give younger players what is euphemistically described as a pathway. The path will not necessarily lead to the first team. It may often, or more often, lead to the sale of players developed as assets to generate financial fair play compliant funds. The club had become adept at that in the Roman Abramovich era, but City Football Group have demonstrated that with a bigger multi-club system, it can be done on an even greater scale. Lewis, in general, first of all, Lewis isn't here, I just realized. Aaron, in general, do you care much about the multi-club model in terms of like, oh yeah, we've signed Strasbourg now, amazing. But did we loan even just Angelo there? Is he the only one that we loaned there, or did we send them anybody else there too? Did I forget?
No, I think it was just Angelo.
There you go. So we acquired a club and sent one player there because we needed to loan so many of the other players out that we couldn't sell, that we didn't have any international loan spots left. In general, obviously, if we did manage to get a stake in Sporting, we would have a certain amount of influence there, and we could send our talented players there to develop, get potentially players from Brazil into Europe and get them accustomed to things, because obviously in Brazil they speak Portuguese, so the transition would be much easier for them at a younger age. This could be super beneficial if things run the right way. This side of the whole ownership, I am much more confident in than I am in them buying the right players, hiring the right people. I'm much more confident in getting things like this done and them making this work successfully. But in general, I don't mind it. But at the same time, there's no telling as of right now if a minority stake on is a good idea or not. But where do you stand on it, Aaron?
I don't know, because I feel like there's so many issues at home right now in terms of your main club, but your focus is going out there and acquiring stakes in other clubs. It's kind of like, surely you should fix the issues that you have at your main project before you then go off and do other side projects. Like
but we know Boehly and Co don't do things that way. They do everything sort of concurrently.
That's what I'm saying, that we've got plenty of things to be worrying about with Chelsea, let alone Strasbourg or Sporting Lisbon or anything like that. So I just think I understand why they want to do it, but at the same time, I feel like their priorities are in the wrong place. I feel like you should be focusing on fixing the issues at Chelsea and then going on to doing other things. Obviously, it's all well and good saying that, but then other issues come up and then it's kind of like you're saying, oh, all your focus should just be on Chelsea. But in the position that we're in right now and the season that we just had, to be going out and acquiring stakes in other clubs, I feel like there's so many bigger things that we could be doing in terms of trying to fix what's going on with Chelsea at the minute, rather than finding a feeder club. That being said, though, obviously Sporting Lisbon have a rich history. They're a huge club in Portugal. They've produced a lot of great talent, so it wouldn't exactly be the worst thing in the world to have a stake there. It depends on what kind of influence you get from having a minority stake. I don't know exactly what that influence will be, what it means you can do, like whether that's loaning players, whether it's buying from them at cut rate cost or any of that sort of shit. But I mean, it's a good idea in essence, but I think we've got too many issues going on at Chelsea right now that we should be focused on rather than going out and acquiring stakes elsewhere. Because this multi-club model, you can do it whenever. Like you've just bought a load in Strasbourg, but there's nothing saying you can't come back in a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, and acquire a stake in a different club. Clubs are always looking for investments to be made into them to project them onwards. So it's not exactly like it's an opportunity that's not going to come up again. And in the situation we're in right now, I think we have bigger issues.
You're on mute, bro.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't disagree with what Aaron said. At the same time, I'm like, well, you know, especially now that the season has started, Iqbali and Boehly, they don't have the influence on what happens on the pitch, on the training pitch. So, you know, let them sort out other things. I mean, that's kind of my point on this. Lewis, just quickly, potential minority stake in Sporting, is that something you think is a good idea, bad idea, or something you're like, well, let's wait and see how it goes if it happens?
Brilliant idea. Players do really well coming in from the Portuguese league to the Premier League. So getting a club like Sporting Lisbon, who are higher up in the table, I think that's a great move for us. Like I heard you say as well with the Brazilian players, it's a good little transition for them too. I didn't even think at that point. That's a great shout too. No complaints. No complaints. Like all the problems with Chelsea right now that we're worried about is on the pitch. Yeah. That's not for Boehly and Iqbali to be concerned about. That's for the football directors and that's for Pochettino to concern himself with. So for me, like, wait, what was that?
I was going to say, do you not think a lot of the issues stem from their strategy within like the transfer market and those sorts of issues where they're trying to focus on this idea of having the best under 23 talent in the world without bringing any experience into our squad, and then it's put in the situation that we're in now?
I agree with that, but I also think like I saw the statement by Matt Law after the last loss where we didn't go for Maddison because he didn't fit the under 25 policy. That's a load of BS, personally. I don't agree. I don't think it's true at all. We've been linked with Ivan Toney throughout the summer. We're trying to get him in January, and the guy's 27. So I don't think we have an under 25s policy. I think we are trying to build a younger squad, but that's not our biggest issue. I understand the talk about experience, but when you're not set up to win games and when you're set up cowardly, you're not going to succeed, regardless. So all of those problems, I could understand as potential factors, but they're not the biggest elephant in the room. And the biggest elephant in the room isn't Boehly and Iqbali's problems. It's Pochettino. That's where the problem is, the way he's setting up, the way he's trying to go about games. So for this move,
the squad planning is part of the problem for Pochettino.
What was that?
Wouldn't you say part of how the squad has been planned is part of why Poch is struggling?
No.
Because I think the reason why we're
another
struggling
experienced winger, we wouldn't be in a scenario where Ben Chilwell is playing left wing.
No, that's not true, because we do have other wingers.
But if you had someone like Sterling, another one who's 26, 27.
No, but like this is what I mean when I say it's cowardly, because we're just not going to play Mudryk or Maatsen because of experience. How about you develop them? No, but how about you develop?
Most managers are going to do that, bro. At least look at the last four managers we've had.
That is weak-minded. Like this. That's weak-minded. We didn't spend 62 million on Mudryk to have him be a bench option.
I think that's the thing.
Starting games. He's had 7 starts for us in a Chelsea shirt.
Was here, isn't it? Like that's half the issue.
The problem is every manager ends up playing this hyper-practical.
That's not Boehly and Iqbali. Is Pochettino being a bitch? Yeah. He's being a bitch.
He's spot on. Lewis is spot on.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong in that sense, but like Ollie just tried to get on, every manager that we have, other than Lampard, because he, with the transfer ban and being forced to use so many young players, had to do it. Everyone else always picks experience over talent. They always pick consistency
No,
over...
Graham Potter picked Kai Havertz up top over the experienced Aubameyang.
Potter did, Tuchel did, Sarri did.
No. I'm saying the experienced option was left on the bench.
In Aubameyang. Yeah, but Aubameyang doesn't count. Do you know what I mean?
He definitely does count. We would have been in the Conference League with him. I stand by that. But so we're only playing Chilwell as a left wing because of experience. That's even worse.
Experience and injuries to me. But yeah, I think so.
No, because there's left wing options. There is Maatsen. There is Mudryk.
Like, tomorrow,
you could play Sterling on the left and you could play Noni on the right.
I agree. It seems more tactical for me than it does the implication around experience. I think that's important, but I don't think it's the only reason he's doing it.
No, but if it was tactical, then it would still be better to play Maatsen there and not Chilwell. Because Maatsen would be better at this role than Chilwell.
But that's why Pochettino comes out of this looking so stupid. Because it doesn't make any sense what he's doing. There's better options regardless, defensively and offensively, than Ben Chilwell.
Exactly. When was
Poch is digging his own grave. That's why, to me, this whole stuff about sporting and everything, this doesn't mean anything bad towards Boehly or Igbali because they're not the ones messing up right now. It's the manager. If we were set up better,
I agree, it's not Boehly and Igbali.
We'd be winning games, and if we were winning games, there wouldn't be any complaints. So you have to look at why we're not winning games, and the reason why is because of the manager.
I know, Ollie. I'm trying to move on. Yeah. I agree it's not Boehly and Igbali, but I don't agree it's just Poch, if that makes sense. I think the step between the directors, they're also part of the issue that's on the pitch.
Oh yeah, it's never just one person, but the majority is Poch.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. And obviously injuries play their role. Let's talk about tomorrow's team. Initially, when me and Ollie were sat here, and I was thinking we might be just two because I didn't know when Lewis would turn up, and I didn't know yet Aaron would turn up. We would do our predicted and our own team. So that predicted is kind of unnecessary because I predicted the same team as last game. That's my prediction. Actually, Palmer instead of Gallagher. That change I predict. But otherwise, let's do what we'd like to see. Shall we? Shall we do that? In goal, unless anyone's going to say Petrovic, then shout. But
Petrovic.
All right, Petrovic in goal. I back it.
I'm sick of Santos, man. I'm already sick of him.
Yeah, fair play. I've never seen Petrovic play in my life, so would be a good chance Sunday, I guess. What about the back four? And again, I honestly just want to know what you'd pick. Not like, but Poch is going to play Chilwell left wing. Yeah, we know that. But I don't care about that.
Is Badiashile fit?
No, unfortunately not.
Not enough to start, I don't think.
No. He's apparently in reconditioning program in first team training. So back very soon, but I don't think for this one. I mean, maybe
Honestly,
he'll make the bench, but...
I'd do Gusto,
Disasi,
Colwill, and Cucurella.
Okay, so you're leaving Thiago out over Disasi?
Just so Disasi's arguably been better this season. So yeah. No, Cucurella, not Chilwell.
Oh, you said Cucurella, not Chilwell.
Yeah, not Chilwell. That brother's on the bench.
I love it. Fair play. All right. I'll just let Aaron say his... No, actually, I'll let you... No, I'll do Aaron and then I'll let Ollie do the whole thing because I know he needs to go at exactly 6:30. So, Aaron, your whole back four. I know you're going to disagree with maybe a couple of things that Lewis said there. So who would you put?
I'd go Gusto, Silva, Colwill, and Chilwell. Only if he's playing left back. If this is like a dumb left wing thing, then just stick Ian Maatsen in there.
Okay. Ollie?
The only reason I say Chilwell is because with Reece James out as well, then he's your vice captain as well. So if you haven't got your captain and your vice captain playing, then it looks a bit mad.
I give Silva that armband, man. Chilwell ain't my captain.
But it won't be even if Chile doesn't play, it will be Enzo, not Thiago, that has the armband. But it doesn't.
I'm fine with that.
Oh wait,
even if you
don't
know
Enzo
a
will
word
get the
of English,
armband if Chilwell don't play.
Yeah.
Yo, put Maatsen in there, bro. Fuck that. Honestly,
because okay. Because every time Chile is subbed off, initially he always gave the armband to Thiago, but then Thiago always moved it on to Enzo without coming off. And last game, Chile even gave it straight to Enzo. So I assume if neither Reece or Chile play, it will be Enzo. But Ollie, your back four.
My back four would be Gusto, Silva, Colwill, Chilwell.
Okay, so I'm scrapping this answer from here. Sorry, Lewis, because I will also agree with Silva. And I'm gonna have to put Chile there because I'm gonna agree with Ollie and put Chile as well, and that means 2 for Chile, 1 for each Cucurella. And because I'm like, Chilwell hasn't even been allowed to play his actual position yet. So I'm like,
He's not
time,
there either.
No, maybe
He's
not.
not
Let's give him a chance before we drop him.
Can I change my pick to Cucurella just so this is a 2v2?
You can if you want. I'll make it a poll to the chat if you want to.
Yeah, change it.
Too
Change it.
high.
We're getting a slash. We're getting a slash.
All right. No, I will put the slash up in a second. I will put a poll to the chat. Ollie, in the meantime, do you want to tell me your double pivot and number 10?
Yeah, double pivot and number 10 for me is Caicedo and Enzo in the pivot and Palmer as the 10.
Very good. Sorry, took a second longer to type this poll out than I thought. Who would you start at left back? And your options are Chilwell and Cucurella. Ladies and gentlemen, in the chat, the poll should now be there. Please place your vote. Your choice will matter. So whoever you guys pick, we will have at left back initially. Caicedo and Enzo and Cole Palmer as the number 10. Lewis, are you going to agree with that pivot and 10?
No
Very
complaints. Good. No complaints.
Aaron, you as well?
No, I'll go with a midfield three of Caicedo, Enzo, Gallagher.
I feel like you're lying.
I'm not lying. I swear to God.
No, I feel like you're lying.
On my life, I ain't even lying, bro. You know,
I've never heard in my life Aaron not slate Gallagher.
Bro, you know I don't really rate Cole Palmer like that. I'll be so honest. Like,
It's true. I forgot about that. You just don't like Cole Palmer. That's the thing. Fair enough.
Bro,
fair enough. Unfortunately for you, Aaron. Unfortunately for you, Aaron, I will agree with the boys. So we're kind of 3-on-1 for Palmer against Gallagher. So it will be Gallagher. But then the wings. Ollie, I'll let you go first and then let you go. Left wing, right wing, striker.
Left wing Sterling, right wing Madueke, striker Jackson. Just think it's the most well-balanced thing we could do.
Fair enough. Ollie, first of all, thank you for being here. Appreciate you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please check out both his Twitter and his podcast. Both are linked down in the description and you can see them on screen. Ollie, thank you for coming and we'll chat to you very soon, mate.
All right, take care, fellas. Thanks for having me on.
Very much appreciate you, mate. Okay, unfortunately, the chat poll has been overruled. Adasha said he is paying money not to have Cucurella. So if the chat somehow seems to pick Cucurella over Chilwell, which doesn't look like it for the time being, it will have to be Chilwell anyway. Adasha, we appreciate your super chat. Lewis, would you agree with that kind of attacking three, Sterling on the left, Madueke on the right, Jackson up top, or would you put Mudryk in over one of them?
Yeah, I've got no problems with it. You could put Mudryk on the left, you could put Sterling on the left, but let's just actually have wingers play as wingers. I don't mind Madueke being given the opportunity. He's looked very good in the limited game time I've seen from him. For that first half disaster class against Wimbledon, he was the only player that looked like he had a couple brain cells in him. So, yeah, please. I'm fine with him on the right. I know we've said Sterling's played his best football off the right too, but realistically, player of his quality should be able to do well on either side.
Exactly, and hasn't apparently Madueke said that Sterling still prefers to play on the left, so why wouldn't I let Sterling do that?
Oh, if that's fair, then go for it. Go for it.
Exactly. Aaron, I know you didn't pick Palmer as the 10, but would you agree with left wing, right wing, and striker here, or would you put Mudryk in over any of them?
Is there no shots for David Washington or nothing?
Nope.
There's. I'll go with that then. That's cool.
I will go with that too. As much as people know, I've been very much supportive of Mudryk, but Madueke has played more. Madueke has shown more. So yeah, it just seems a bit more logical to me. Also, Mudryk seemed to not get injured against England, but get a knock and then didn't start the Ukraine game, even though according to Charlie looked sharp in training today, so not injured. But I still think Madueke Sterling, and then you bring on Mudryk. Or you don't. Manager says he needs time. All right, give him time then. If we're losing, don't bring him on. I don't want to see more of that because that's just more unnecessary pressure and criticism from the fans. And someone said, yes, JC, I'm very aware. Chilwell will be left wing back. I think we all agree with that. But this is our team, not Pochettino's team. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round this one out with a score prediction. Aaron, I'll start with you. Do you back us to win? Even if you don't back us to win, are you going to predict the win?
Are we away from home?
Yes.
Oh shit. I think we're gonna win? No, but I'm shameless, so I'll predict the win anyway in case this comes back and it makes me look good. I'm gonna say, I thought our goalkeepers are just shit. Like, I don't know if we're gonna keep a clean sheet. That's the problem. I'll go 2-0. Go on. 2-0.
Fair dues. Before I ask Lewis, sorry, Adash, I need to appreciate you fully. You paid to have Chilwell there, so I'm not even going to put the slash there. Sorry, chat. I say that the chat.
Wait, how much was his super chat?
£2.
So if I put a super chat
$2.
higher than £2 for Cucurella,
Yeah. But I don't want to make you pay for something unnecessary here because the chat has
Lewis,
also
we
picked
can go halves
Chilwell
on
with
that.
68%.
Lewis, that's £1 each, bro. We got this. Get Cucurella in there.
Yeah, you know what? I'm down. I can't see this bum in the squad.
Okay. I'm bringing the slash back. My day. See, Adash, this is how it goes. You pay and someone pays more. It's like an auction house over here. It's mental. That's funny. I would have never thought Aaron would pick Marc Cucurella. That's crazy. But yeah, there you go. Lewis, finish it off for me with a not a super chat, with a score prediction. Aaron said 2-0. You back in that? Do you think we'll keep a clean sheet? What do you think? I'm
going 1-0 penalty and just a terrible game of football.
You think we'll score a penalty?
We steal a win. Someone takes Sterling down in the box or something.
Who scores the penalty, please?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, Lewis.
Enzo redemption arc.
Okay, so you
Jackson.
think it will be him again if we get another one?
It'll be him or Jackson, I think.
But
Jackson.
Madueke scored against Wimbledon, so do you not think he might step up?
If he's starting, go for it. Yeah. I have no. There's literally no one there who's an esteemed penalty taker. So if someone even scores one, it's like cool. You're already top. So
yeah,
I don't mind Madueke taking it. That's fine by me.
No, neither do I. I think.
Although low-key, I'd give it to Jackson just to get this whole goal and assist BS off his back.
Yeah, that's true. But I think if it's not Enzo, I think it will be Sterling. Like, yeah, he doesn't have the best record, but at least he's used to taking them. You know, that's
whoever takes it, just score. Yeah, I don't care. Just score, please.
You know, we care about that when Hazard took them. I mean, I don't care about that. Just, you know, it is what it is. Let whoever take them, as long as they score, I don't mind. Sorry, you said 1-0, didn't you? I must say, I'm going to go in between you both, I guess, and I'm going to say 2-1. I do agree with Aaron. I don't think, even though you predicted 2-0, I agree with what you said. I don't think we'll get a clean sheet, unfortunately. But I think we'll win. I mean, I'd love to say 3-1, but looking at our XG and our actual goals over the last few games, I need to keep my feet on the ground, I reckon. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about time we wrap this one up. Please do subscribe to Lewis's channel. Link is down in the description. As you can see, 15 days since the last. Here we go. It's sad times. Let's see how many days it is. Exactly. To the next.
Get me another Brazilian.
More Brazilians. The last away win was Bournemouth away under Lampard. You'd think if Lampard can win there, Poch can, but you never know nowadays. So make of that what you will. Aaron, thank you to you as well for coming on. Appreciate it very much, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. That would be massively appreciated. Still on the road to 20,000 subscribers. We're getting there ever so slowly. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button on your way out. Just one click of a button that doesn't cost you any money or any time, and it really helps me spread these streams out to more people. So I'd massively appreciate it. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.